Hello. Welcome back to Systematic Symphony of Species. In this video we are going to have a broader view on species concepts, and focus on the unified species concept. The unified species concept is an attempt to address the long-standing controversy and confusion surrounding the definition of species and methods for inferring species boundaries. The idea is presented by Kevin de Queiroz in the paper titled, Species Concepts and Species Delimitation, published in Systematic Biology in 2007. The author proposed a unified species concept that focuses on the essential property of a species being a separately evolving metapopulation lineage. Here are key points that highlight the unified species concept. Primary defining property. The primary defining property of a species, according to the unified species concept, is the existence of a separately evolving metapopulation lineage. Secondary species criteria. The former secondary species criteria, such as intrinsic reproductive isolation, diagnosability, and monophily, are considered as operational criteria or lines of evidence relevant to assessing lineage separation. Separation of species conceptualization and delimitation. The unified concept separates the issues of species conceptualization and species delimitation. The primary defining property is seen as relevant to species conceptualization, while the secondary species criteria are considered relevant only to species delimitation. Relevance of secondary criteria to delimitation. All properties formerly treated as secondary species criteria are considered relevant to species delimitation to the extent that they provide evidence of lineage separation. Evidence for lineage existence. The presence of any one of the properties, when appropriately interpreted, is considered evidence for the existence of a species. Multiple properties are associated with a higher degree of corroboration. Encouragement for new delimitation methods. Emphasis is shifted away from traditional species criteria, encouraging biologists to develop new methods of species delimitation that are not tied to specific properties. The incompatibilities among major classes of contemporary species definitions stem from their reliance on distinct biological properties. For instance, intrinsic reproductive isolation is crucial in the isolation version of the biological species concept, while the ecological species concept hinges on the occupation of a distinct niche or adaptive zone. Additionally, the diagnosable version of the phylogenetic species concept emphasizes fixed character state differences. These variations in emphasis are predictable, given that different properties hold greater significance for specific subsets of biologists. Reproductive incompatibilities matter most to researchers studying hybrid zones. Ecologists prioritize niche differences, and diagnosability and monophily are foundational for systematists. Paleontologists and museum taxonomists lean towards morphological differences, while population geneticists and molecular systematists emphasize genetic distinctions. Nevertheless, for biologists adopting a multidisciplinary approach or those able to take a neutral perspective, all concepts demonstrate merit as they are rooted in essential biological properties. The key to reconciling alternative species concepts lies in identifying a common element that represents a more general concept of species. Past attempts to address the species concept problem often accentuated differences rather than similarities among competing ideas. However, it has been found that all contemporary species concepts share a common and fundamental element, which is crucial to species conceptualization. This general concept defines species as separately evolving metapopulation lineages or, more precisely, as segments of such lineages. In this context, a lineage refers to an ancestor-descendant series of metapopulations over time, distinct from a clade or monophyletic group, which comprises multiple lineages. A metapopulation is an inclusive population composed of connected subpopulations, used here to differentiate species from populations at lower levels, such as demes and family groups. Importantly, a species is not an entire metapopulation lineage but only a segment, contributing to the formation of species-level lineages as species give rise to other species. Despite the common agreement among contemporary species concepts that species are segments of separately evolving metapopulation lineages, significant disagreement exists regarding species concepts. The diversity in conceptualizations becomes clear when examining the differences among alternative species concepts in the context of their shared element, the idea that species are separately evolving metapopulation lineages. If we consider this common element as the primary defining property of the species category, the varied species concepts can be explained by treating many of the properties underlying them as secondary defining properties. Most alternative species concepts adopt different properties of lineages as secondary defining properties, resulting in incompatible species concepts. The reason for these incompatibilities lies in the fact that the different secondary properties, secondary species criteria, emerge at different stages of the speciation process, encompassing various evolutionary processes like mutation, natural selection, migration, and genetic drift. The characters affected by these processes are diverse, including genotypic or phenotypic traits, qualitative or quantitative changes, and involvement of different aspects of organismal biology. Diverging lineages acquire different properties over time, such as becoming phonetically distinguishable, having fixed character states, developing incompatible genitalia, gametes, and developmental systems, evolving distinctive ecologies, and passing through various stages in terms of their component genes. However, the challenge arises because these changes do not occur simultaneously or follow a regular order. Each species concept adopts a different property from this set as a defining, necessary, property of the species category. Thus, despite sharing a common fundamental element, different species concepts may lead to distinct conclusions about which lineages should be recognized as species. The proposed solution to the species concept problem involves a shift in how species are conceptualized, aiming for a unified species concept. This approach retains the common element found in all contemporary species concepts, species as separately evolving metapopulation lineages. The solution consists of two components. First, retaining this common element as the sole necessary property of species. Second, considering other properties previously treated as necessary, creating conflicts among concepts, as contingent properties. Lineages do not need to possess properties like phonetic distinguishability or reproductive isolation to be considered species, they only need to evolve separately. Despite denying these properties as necessary, the proposed concept still values them. They serve as operational criteria for assessing lineage separation and divergence, remaining relevant to species delimitation. Additionally, these properties can define subcategories of species, but under the unified concept, a more precise terminology based on the observed properties is suggested, moving away from general and potentially misleading adjectives. Subcategories are crucial for addressing specific biological questions. Overall, the unified species concept encompasses all properties considered important by previous authors but does not treat them as necessary for defining species. Thank you for watching this video and please share your views and ideas on the unified species concept.